Cold open question to start the show, Brendan. Kevin Durant, top 10 in scoring. What's your favorite Kevin Durant moment of all time?
I think it has to be the left wing 3 over LeBron in the 2017 finals. I think that's the iconic Kevin Durant shot. It's probably the rival that we associate him with the most. We're going to talk about that rivalry today, but that's the stretch of Kevin Durant's career and the highest of highs, the biggest of stages, the moment of all moments that I'm going to associate him with. However, if his shoe was a little bit smaller, it would be the second round against Milwaukee in 2021, I think. But we did not get that moment.
I have the same one as you. I was in arena for that shot. I was covering the game that night. And in my entire life, Brendan, I've seen some LeBron game winners electrify an arena. I've seen the Warriors beat the Cavs in Cleveland and all the weird energy around that. I've seen some really tense Cavs playoff losses at times. I have never in my life seen an arena go from loud and tense and hopeful to some degree, and then in a snap of one shot, Kevin Durant killed the entire mood in the arena. All-time cold-blooded NBA Finals dagger. One of the best of all time in the top 10 scoring of all time. Let's get into today's episode of the Just Basketball Show.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Oh, LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Just Basketball Show, your twice weekly NBA, WNBA, and more podcast. I'm Chris Manning. That is Brendon Kleen with... Brendan, can we count Uncut Gems as a sports movie? You have the shirt on. Can we count that as a sports movie? Like a hardcore
Yeah, when we had
movie?
Vince Goodwill on and we were doing basketball speed dating with him, he picked the Spike Lee joint for his favorite. He got game for his favorite basketball movie. We didn't have time, but I did want to barter and maybe debate with him a little bit about Uncut Gems. I just feel like I have to speak the gospel of this film every chance that I get. But yeah, Kevin Garnett is like the third leading star of the film. Of course it's a sports movie.
And Joel Embiid was originally supposed to be in that film.
Rajon Rondo would have been a contender, I think, at one point to be in that movie. Absolutely a sports film. Mike Francesa is in it. I mean, come on. Yes, it's absolutely a sports movie. As a bookie.
But if someone has gambled and they haven't, and they're trying to get a PSA about gambling across, Brendan, they should just it's like, hey, have you seen Uncut Gems? And they'll be like, no, I have not. You show them that movie, and then it's like, oh, I get that gambling could ruin my life.
And there's
drug.
Any number of 2-minute snippets from the entirety of that movie that you could just flash to a 15-year-old who's really, really into sports and just be like, young man,
are you having
this is what your life is going to be like. You're going to be living in New Jersey and not have a family that loves you and maybe or maybe not die. That's what's headed your way.
The voice from Frozen is going to be married to you and despise you is what
exactly
is what is going to happen. But we have a jam-packed show today. Previewing the NBA Cup semifinals, that's a Pacers-Bucks matchup, a Lakers-Pelicans matchup, and later in the show, it's Waving the Flag, our weekly segment where we talk about the Magic and the Kings. And it's getting close to slop season in full, so for the Kings, 5 Kings trade targets we like. But Brendan, let's start
I have to clarify something. I don't think you stated for any of the audio listeners, I'm wearing an Uncut Gems t-shirt.
I just assumed that was implied.
We're just obsessed, but
smooth.
It didn't just come out of nowhere that we're just thinking about a random film. So I just want, we're not going crazy.
Yeah,
but
I should have said it explicitly, but I gathered that when I said you're wearing it, I kind of figured they would figure it out, but that's true. Brendan is wearing it.
Shout out to A24. Shout out to Adam Sandler's beautiful face. He is joining us for the show today.
I get so many ads, Brendan, for the A24 AAA service they have where you get discounted merch and stuff. And if I wasn't in my money saving era, that's that's a temptation. That's a real temptation.
I've been a member. I got it as a gift last year.
Oh.
That's not how I bought this shirt though, because this movie's obviously a lot older than that. But you get a 10% off and a birthday gift and all sorts of stuff. And it is incredibly hard to not hit that purchase button every chance that I get. But that's enough about Uncut Gems. Everybody go watch it.
Yeah, shout out to A24 as well. Watch past lives. They have crazy Midsommar merch there too. Good stuff. All right, NBA Cup, Brendan. Let's start with the East. Let's go East to West here. We're getting Pacers Bucks, and I think the player we have to start with is the guy who I think has been the best player in NBA Cup games so far. The guy who is the herald of the doom that the Indiana Pacers offense brings opposing defenses, and that is Tyrese Haliburton. His first career triple-double against Boston, all the big shot making, all the big playmaking. Like, what a performance from him. What an arrival for him. Just what a moment for this guy that has been one of the league's ascendant stars this year. The NBA Cup, in so many ways, has been about the ascension of Tyrese Haliburton.
Yeah, the Indiana Pacers are what this tournament was made for, right? The Indiana Pacers are a team, and Haliburton has been open about this. He had never played on TNT before Monday night. He's basically earning his team attention in the most literal possible sense of what that can mean. They win the group stage handily. They're the first team to clinch. There's your TNT game Monday night. You beat the Boston Celtics on your home court. The arena is exploding. By the way, Gainbridge Fieldhouse seems like a pretty cool arena. The exterior, the interior, I want to go. I would love to go for All-Star. I don't think I'm going to have the money to do that, but, anyway. Building explodes. There's your game on Thursday night. You get another one. Go to Las Vegas. You're on TNT, or I think it's ESPN again, right? And it's not a fluke either. I think that Haliburton wants this, really cares. And I know that it's tempting to talk about the offense. I have one number that I want to throw your way, but I actually was focused more on the defense in this game. Yeah. I thought this was the best defensive game I've watched the Pacers play, and it gave us a little window into when they actually care in these moments what their defense could look like. But I just got done making a TikTok about Nikola Jokic, Chris, and I had his offensive rating. I believe that when he's on the court, the Nuggets are 126.6 or so offensive rating. Tyrese Haliburton is about almost a point and a half better than that with the Pacers when he plays. They're at 127.8. He had 13 assists and no turnovers in this game. He is the closest thing to me, having watched Steve Nash growing up. He feels like that to me, where it is very, very, very hard to get them to make mistakes when they are locked in and when he is orchestrating things. So this was just the arrival. This was everything that I think the NBA would want for an upstart team, and they earned this, I think, in every sense of the word.
The Haliburton moment he is having is how someone who is a bigger star to the broader NBA universe, which is a gross-sounding phrase that I realize I just said, but it's like he's going to be more known in the public eye now. He is going to be more known as one of those dudes. He's going to be someone that people, I think, fall in love with as a result of this. How could you not? How could you not watch this guy play basketball, hear him talk about basketball, hear his personality in general, learn that he's like a
see
real
his
dork
dad?
Yeah, well,
cheering.
Did you see also he's pulling off an all jean fit, like all like a light wash denim fit before the game? Like the confidence, the swagger, the fact that he's like a big professional wrestling dork. Like this guy is just kind of the superstar that is not like inaccessible. He's like he's becoming this accessible video game offensive freak superstar. Like that is what he is becoming in front of our eyes. And if he gets to hoist a cup at the end of this, or is named the MVP of the tournament, like you're looking at now one of like the biggest players in the league to some degree. And for Indiana, like they've talked about how Rick Harlow talked to Rob Mahoney, and we had Rob Mahoney on the show to talk about Haliburton and his story over at The Ringer. Which, by the way, after that game, I went to The Ringer's homepage the next morning, was back on the front page. I was like, good. You guys know. You guys get it. But, like, they're in this growth phase. They're trying to figure out, like, how to best build around him. And I would love – it. We'll never know exactly because, like, some of the quotes would be tampering. And if you ask guys about it, they're not going to give you, like, a clean answer like that. But I could see a world where he has, like, this ascendant run and they beat Boston and they beat Milwaukee and maybe they knock off LeBron in the final, which is very possible here. And – it's like, man, playing with Tyrese Haliburton could be cool.
Making Indianapolis fun. That's what he's doing. In-season tournament betting odds, MVP, he's fourth. Plus 425. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Is that just like a hedge because they might not win and they're just maybe just going to default and give this to like LeBron if the Lakers win or Giannis if the Bucks win?
It is them saying it's them saying that the Bucks and the Lakers are going to win, and that's why their teams are ahead. But also, full season MVP odds. He's devalued there too. Plus 2,200. He's behind Shea, Tatum, Luka. To me, he's probably right there with Jokic and Embiid right now. I know it doesn't really matter, but
where's Chris Middleton?
Chris Middleton is first. I'm talking about tier 2. It's just a given that Middleton's first. Also,
okay.
We'll talk about the Bucks in a minute. You want to talk about Chris Middleton? I'm kind of right there. Look what happens when he plays well.
He looked pretty good. Looked pretty good.
Tyrese Haliburton this season, 202 assists, 40 turnovers. If you're counting at home, that's a 5-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio for somebody who has an assist rate of 48 and a usage rate of 27. That's just something that should not be possible. He's an absolute madman, and I love watching him play. Can we talk about the defense real quick, and then maybe use that to flip to Milwaukee?
This is the defense, I think, has a two-sided question because I think you could look at it and say this was the best high-stakes defensive performance we've seen this Indiana team do, and that's true. But I also got just like a wee bit of Boston Celtics big close game offense PTSD.
Sure. I mean, we'll see if they can do it against Milwaukee, right? That's what's going to be so fun about this matchup. But yeah, Boston turned the ball over 17 times. They looked aimless a lot of the time. I mean, their two shots in the biggest moment were a Jason Tatum like mid-post pull-up 2 from like 21 feet at the top of the arc, and then a pull-up 3 from the left wing by Tatum. Like that's exactly what we've been watching them do for years. But I just thought the intensity level, the engagement level, the awareness level from Indiana was where it needs to be. They can probably get from like 30th or wherever they are defensively, I think, Chris, to 20th just by playing like that more consistently. I think that they give up mismatches. They switch too often. They give up cross matches, all these sorts of things, somewhat by way of how fast they play, which we've talked about with their defense before. Partially just because they're not that disciplined, they don't have size, and they're not really able to kind of control the game like you might want to with physicality and everything else. But I still think if they're communicating, executing the switches on and off ball better like they did, matching up, committing to running back on defense so you don't end up with Miles Turner on Jaylen Brown or whatever too much, playing guys like Nesmith and McConnell and Bruce Brown more consistently together and in late game situations, like they have the personnel to be better than this. And I think this game, holding Boston to 112 and 2 sub 25-point quarters, like if I'm Indiana, if I'm Rick Carlisle, this gives me a little bit of ammunition to say, like, see, biggest stage, top team in the East, we can do this.
I agree. I think the personnel was really locked in. I think sometimes you just do need defensive personnel to get locked in, to buy into all of this. I think that's sometimes just part of this, right? Like sometimes you just have to get a little bit fortunate in that way. And I think there is some luck here, I think, as well, that I'm curious to see how that looks over game 2 and what this looks like. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at some of this in detail, Brendan, but the one number that really stuck out to me, these teams were very even in terms of three-point rate. The percentage of their shots that were threes were basically even.
Mm-hmm.
Boston shot 28.2% from 3, including 20% from the corner. It's pretty bad, particularly the corner number. Indiana, 47.5, 43.8 from non-corner, 62.5% on corner threes. I mean, that's there's some math thing happening there that I think dictates how this defense looks in this game a little bit, but it doesn't take away that's kind of what Boston is to some degree as well. Like Boston is just going to take these shots, and that's how Mazzulla wants to play, and they have a style built at least somewhat around the fact that they need lots of their threes to go in. And when and if you have a game where like they're vulnerable to this, if as it happened, Holiday's 1 of 5, Tatum's 2 of 8, Derek White's 2 of 9, and Jaylen Brown's 2 of 7.
Well, the other thing is Porzingis didn't play.
Bingo.
And obviously that matters, but there was another stat that actually feels more like Porzingis did play, which is Boston, who's not an offensive rebounding heavy team, had 13. Cornette was able to impact the game that way. Hauser got a couple of big ones. Horford, it was sort of a group effort outside of Cornette, but that should have helped them, and it really didn't either. So those 17 turnovers, the missed threes, that kind of tells the story of the game. Maybe there's some luck involved. There always is, but you could feel Indiana stepping it up from an intensity level. And even if it's flukish, there's not a lot of games this year where they've allowed less than 120, and they did it. So, pat them on the back and hope that they can build that momentum from there. Milwaukee actually kind of felt similarly to Chris. I'll let you have the floor for the offense, but to me, the third quarter defense when they made their run was the biggest thing. 37-24 in that quarter. That was the lowest points scored by the Knicks in any quarter. They had more physicality to match Randall. I thought limiting where he was catching it, forcing deflections and difficult catches even when they did enter it to Randall, and a lot of that was Giannis. And then on the downhill stuff from Brunson and everyone else, Lopez looked like he was 26 again in that quarter. And so I think this Indiana-Milwaukee game is obviously going to come down to, it's going to be 120, 130, 140. Who can get enough stops? Who can get enough force enough key turnovers, deflections, stops at the basket, whatever the case might be. And Indiana proved it. They obviously have better personnel on that end. Or Milwaukee, has more personnel on that end. I think I favor them. I know that's not a hot take. I know it's the team that should win. But the Pacers are the story. I kind of want the Pacers to win, but the Bucks showed me something by also kind of sticking their neck out and saying, like, hey, we also can defend. Like, don't overlook us. And I think Nekias Duncan had the stat on JJ Redick's podcast this week that for the past month or so, the Bucks are actually 12th in defense. So they're trending in the right direction, and I think they can take care of business here against Indiana.
I mean, Brook and Giannis have done some pretty incredible stuff. I think they've been really good in spots. The last one, I think they were pretty good against Milwaukee. You could look at Julius Randle's stat line and say, were they that good? But I think if you watch them and watch the way they moved and watch the way they contest shots, and particularly were working the Knicks bigs, I think they did a great job. I think that's like the template of how this team has to play defense, just considering the personnel they're often throwing out that are just – there's no way they're going to have good defensive personnel at all 5 of these spots. That's just baked into this roster. So those two guys have to be massive. And the how they defend Miles Turner as like a stretch factor in this game is going to be really interesting to me, because he's obviously capable of shooting threes, but he's not. I don't think you're super scared of Miles Turner pick and pop, right? You're not freaking out totally. So what do they do in a big game here? How do they approach that? What does Brooks' job look like in that case? And it's also just really hard to contain Halliburton. I mean, I expect to see Dame really tested defensively in this game in a way that maybe he wasn't against the Knicks fully. I think that's going to get scaled up even more so next time out. I just imagine that's kind of unavoidable if you're going to get into a close game here.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks were targeting Lillard aggressively. I think that a big part of the evolution for Brunson has been getting into mismatch attacking stuff very quickly. That's one of the, I think, the steps that separates the LeBrons and Lucas and Hardens from the guys who try to play like them, who are masquerading as heliocentric guys, is it's one thing to be like, okay, I want to attack so-and-so, Lillard. Let's dribble up. Let me find him. Let me have his guy come set a screen. Now there's 8 seconds left. Okay, I'm going to attack him. Well, no, you're going to shoot a contested jumper. But Brunson sets those double screens quickly, gets the defense in rotation while attacking the other guy, and that set a template for what I think Indiana's going to be able to do, because they're not going to put Lillard on Halliburton. They're going to probably put Beasley on Halliburton, which, okay, like, I don't know how much different or better that actually is. He's a little bigger. But Halliburton should be watching that Knicks tape, using go screens and double screens with Hield involved, and saying, like, we're going to make Damian Lillard have to guard. I just kind of have it built in that Halliburton's going to go off. I think it's the other stuff that might get taken away if Milwaukee can have a better transition defense night, if they can, limit some of the, open threes and take some of that stuff away and whatever. I think that's where this game's going to be decided. But, yeah, it's going to be a high-scoring thing, I think, either way.
The Bucks offense against the Knicks, I think the last thing to say here before we make, picks for that game was just outrageous. 144.8 offensive rating, had a 74.1 effective field goal percentage, 62%, 62.9% from three, 38% of their shots, 52 on above the break threes. Were really good in the short mid and the long mid, and in the overall mid range, which kind of added to this. And even though they didn't get a ton of shots at the rim, only 30% of their shots at the rim, 76% at the rim, they were efficient just about everywhere on the floor. They were incredible in the half court. They did really well in transition. Did really well. Absolutely feasted on putbacks in this game. Despite they didn't offensive rebound as well as the Knicks, it's kind of hard to do that. But they were ultimately more efficient in their opportunities in that space. Just a really, really good Bucks offensive performance. Two things popped for me. Number one, I thought Chris Middleton looked smooth. Still only played 26 minutes. Maybe we were texting during this, wondering if he should get pulled out late just because he'd played so many minutes already. But I thought looked really smooth. Had some kind of vintagey, which feels wrong to say, but kind of the healthy, slick, in-between space, sliding around Chris Middleton on offense. That was really nice to see. And I think the Damian Lillard, Brook Lopez pick and roll is getting there. That pick and roll, you're seeing them have some nice passes where they're spreading it out. Dame makes a pretty straightforward read to Brook in the pocket. Brook's either getting a layup right there, or there's someone sliding in from the corner or the dunker spot that he can give it to. They're not complex actions, but they're building chemistry, they're building rhythm in that set. And I think as much as we can look at the Pacers attacking, I think Milwaukee can have a ton of offensive success with that action and with Dame in particular in this matchup.
Yeah, and I think it just helps to have Middleton as one more playmaker, one more capable guy who's going to make the right play when the ball gets into his hands, whether that's initiating something so Lillard can start a possession off the ball, whether that is, ending a possession, needing to score in an isolation or post-up situation, as we know Middleton can do. That one additional guy goes such a long way for them. And with the Lillard-Lopez thing or any sort of those combinations that they might be able to do, I think the big thing for Indiana will be don't give up those switches, because Boston might think they're a mismatch attacking team. They're really not. They want the mismatch, and then they're going to take the same kind of shot no matter what matchup they have. The Bucks will attack it, right? If you switch that and Lillard has Miles Turner, or if Lopez is now being guarded by Bruce Brown, they'll go to that. They'll make Giannis into a post-up guy in an early offense seal situation or whatever the case may be. And I think the last thing I want to say is just Giannis this year. You mentioned that they were good in that mid-range area. He was 14 of 21 from 2 this season. This is always the bellwether for him. 38% for mid-range and 38% on those floaters. Last year, he was excellent. I thought he had an MVP case up until about the last month of the year. Those numbers were at 28 and 32. Just being a little bit better, even though it's still below league average, goes a long, long way for him and how he can keep the defense honest and be a real threat from all over the court. So obviously that's bigger picture than just this game, but I'm not really sure who guards him on that. God be with Obi Toppin, I guess, on Thursday night, but he's going to have his way, I think.
The last kind of silly thing, this was my number 2 consideration for the cold open. Brendan, did you see the post-game interview with Jared Greenberg where Giannis was sort of questioning capitalism?
I did not.
So he didn't know he was getting money for this, and he just goes, "The rich get richer." That's how, when he found that he was getting $100,000, and he was getting asked by the interviewer like, "Oh, you're gonna gamble in Vegas for your birthday because you're gonna be there and all this stuff," and he's like, "The rich get richer," and he said it so seriously. And I was just like,
he's
dang.
like, America makes no sense to me. And I
Yeah.
I agree, Giannis.
As someone who came from extreme poverty, Giannis Antetokounmpo was like, do I need another $100,000 when I have my Nike money and my massive NBA contract? Can I could Thanasis probably hasn't made as much money. Maybe my brother could get some of that $100,000. Like
He's like, is it too late to sign Alex for the weekend and get him in
can
on
we-
this? Yeah.
yeah. It was just. I've never seen an athlete. We've seen deadpan before. I've never seen an athlete like deadpan an answer that was like meant to be like in good spirit, but just really like I just don't want to I don't care about this $100,000. Like rich get richer is a bar from Giannis. All right, picks. Looking at odds, Brendan, the Bucks are from our friends at BetMGM -110. -110 just straight up. Actually, I'm saying this. -4.5 against the spread. Pacers are +4.5. The money line picking them outright. The Bucks are -190. The Pacers +155. Over under.
I'm
total,
going Milwaukee.
I am going Milwaukee as well. I would also take the over on the 254.
Yeah, agreed. I think those are two safe bets. I mean, 127 apiece is, or 128, 127 final score, I guess, would have to be the lowest it could go. I just don't see either of these teams consistently stopping the other one. It'll just come down to who does it more often in the last 5 minutes, I think. I think we're getting a close game. I think we're getting a high-paced game. And I think Milwaukee pulls it away.
I think Milwaukee wins as well. I'm just going best player. I'm going Dame. The last time these two teams played, 126-124 game, Dame did not play. Think we're going to get some
And Dame is
scoring.
one of the best clutch players in the league this year. We don't have time for those numbers, but he's been very, very good, even with some cluttered half-court offense and everything else. Exactly, Dame time. Maybe him being higher than Tyrese on the in-season tournament MVP odds is the right way to go. We might see a magical late-game performance from him, but I'm looking forward to this one.
I am too. Cannot wait. That's going to be, I believe that is an 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern time tip.
No, the games are weird. You haven't seen that? It's at 5 Eastern.
Oh, I had not seen
for
this. I
some
just assumed 7.
strange reason. I don't know why. I have not seen a good answer. The games are 4 hours apart. I'm sure there's some sort of thing that explains it, but that also means that it is 2 p.m. local in the vicinity that it's being held in, which is Vegas.
Well,
If you're
ever going to do a 2 p.m. start, the place you could pull it off is probably Las Vegas, Nevada.
Is anybody awake at 2 p.m. in Vegas, though?
Yeah, I mean, people just don't really sleep in Las Vegas. I think it's the energy, Brendan.
I don't get it. I'm sure there'll be some sort of answer that we get, but yeah, 2 p.m. local, 5 Eastern. Pick the Bucks, bet the over.
An hour of Stephen A. In between games on your television. All right.
And the arena will be full of Lakers fans. This entire arena is going to be full of Angelinos with gold, obnoxious clothing on, and we all will hate it. Yeah. If you've been to Summer League.
Yeah, Summer League. I
We
bought
know.
a hat. So Brendan and I went, the Lakers, Pelicans, we'll talk about next. Went to Summer League. I'm a big dad hat guy, so I bought a Summer League dad hat. They only had one hat that was like a dad hat, not a snapback, not like a fitted. It's a white hat, gold and purple, NBA logo, Summer League. It's Lakers colors. They know. This is gonna be a Lakers home game, and that's Lakers Pelicans. Lakers -1.5 on the spread. Pelicans +1.5. Over/unders at 229.5, significantly lower than the other game, which seems fair. Lakers, in turn, just picking an outright winner, -120. Pelicans +110. So this game's a little bit closer as far as the odds go.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Pelicans, Brendan, because Brandon Ingram, to me, in the first game, was in their win over the Kings, was the story in a lot of ways. I think you got some really good Zion stuff in that game. There's no doubt about that. But I
Weird
think
stat line for him. He had like an awesome third quarter and nothing else.
Right, but he did enough. It kind of worked. To me, Ingram playing 40 minutes, had 30 points, really high usage, had a really good assist percentage versus the turnover percentage in that game, was efficient. I was just really into this Brandon Ingram performance. He was, I think, the main reason they got by throwing Herb Jones going 8 of 13 from the field and 3 of 5 from 3. like this game was just a good encapsulation of they're not just relying on Zion going nuclear. Like Ingram can do this, McCollum can give you good minutes, Herb Jones can have a random game here or there. Like this was a pretty good win for a Pelicans team that is absolutely ascending right now.
Yeah, the blueprint, the recipe for them was a crazy havoc-wrecking defense in the second quarter with Najee Marshall and Jose Alvarado, a nice third quarter from Zion, and Brandon Ingram bailing them out offensively throughout the game. I thought, you know what I thought about actually during this Ingram performance, Chris, is if he had played like this with Team USA, things go very differently. There might be a gold medal in his closet. Because he's playing somewhat of a similar role to what he was asked to do with Team USA. Like, are there more mid-post ISOs and face-up opportunities for him to kind of do his Carmelo Anthony thing? Yeah, obviously, on a team that doesn't have a bunch of stars, he gets to do that more. But whether it's McCollum initiating or Zion initiating, which happens a lot, he's really having to attack out of spot-up situations or kind of late clock, bail us out types of moments, and he's very, very decisive. He's playing with good flow, I think, in the half court, and just getting to his spots confidently, making the right read on what the defense is giving up, and just making shots. And it's probably not the role he's most comfortable in, but when he excels in it, 38-6 with just 2 turnovers on 50% shooting. Like, he gets his opportunities. So he's definitely sacrificing more than Zion to make this whole thing work. They have a roster that allows both of those guys to lean very heavily toward offense. Most of the time when they're on the court, that's fine. It's working. And I think this game, I mean, you probably want more Zion overall. I think it was just sort of a weird one for him, and his minutes were down. But this can carry them a long way. And I think that they have a higher offensive ceiling when both of those guys are going, and Trey Murphy now is back, McCollum now is back. They have a higher offensive ceiling than the Lakers. I think that's for sure. I think this game is going to be about, can the Lakers slow them down? Can the Lakers keep up? But they have the upper hand in terms of scoring consistently, which is obviously what you have to do to win basketball games. I think you have to be pretty optimistic if you're a Pelicans fan, even though it will be Lakers mania in that building, and nobody in the national media is going to want to pick the Pelicans and all that stuff. But this is primed for the little brother upset, I think.
Also, Trey Murphy back. Very fun to see him back. I think he could have a really big role in the game we're about to see. He's one of the breakout candidates we have here. He is absolutely playing real minutes right off the bat, not starting, but playing 26 minutes a night.
I think he has 15-plus points in both of his games since coming back from a freaking torn. What did he have? What's that? Meniscus.
Meniscus. Yep.
That's crazy.
Taking a ton of threes. 69% of his shots are from 3 so far. Just absolutely, he's not really getting to the rim at all, and he's just hoisting threes. But that's what they need. I mean, they just need consistent spacing. I mean, that's what they got great minutes out of Jordan Hawkins and Matt Ryan, and they just, they have enough defense. They have enough creators. It's just like role player palooza over there, and he's playing like a role player plays. I think he's going to be a huge part for them the rest of the season. Lakers, I don't think their win against the Suns, Brendan, I think is kind of marred a controversy as far as what we can take from this game and apply it forward. I think it's pretty simple. They're pretty big. They have LeBron James, who's playing out of his mind. Anthony Davis is healthy and playing well right now. They're just a good basketball team that's going to get a lot of different things. Austin Reeves, I think, is picking it up a little bit late. I think the shot he had at the end of this game maybe gives him some momentum going forward, if you believe in that sort of thing in a psychological sense. But I'm just going to I'm going to ask you kind of point blank.
I'm sorry.
Did the Phoenix Suns get hosed?
I have to interrupt
Did the
you.
Suns get
I have
hosed?
to interrupt. Yes. So as you were talking, the last 2-minute report came out. I checked because I had it up all day. I hit refresh probably 53 times.
Brendan's just spamming that MFR, and I
Literally.
understand. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've looked at these before.
I have not this one.
So there's a little code with acronyms. You look at the play, you look at what the acronym is, and that tells you what the refs are telling us they got right versus what they got wrong. At the 7.4 second mark, comment from the officials, LAL is granted a timeout when Reeves recovers the ball and pins it against his leg before he loses it again. I go to the review decision column, and there is a CC there, which means correct call. They are standing by giving the Lakers a timeout when there is no possession of the ball because they say Reeves recovered it, pinned it against his leg, and then the timeout happened at exactly the moment because do you want to know who called the timeout? Do you happen to recall who called the timeout, Chris?
Adam Silver.
Yeah, no. LeBron James, who might as well be Adam Silver, called that timeout. And
this is your personal grassy knoll, I think.
It's ridiculous, man. I mean, look, so the Suns did get hosed, to answer your question, but I think that the other part of this is the first half that they played is one of the worst I've ever seen them play this season. They turned the ball over. It was 9 times in the first quarter. I think it was 12 to 15 in the first half. Devin Booker's just dropping the ball. Drew Eubanks played maybe the worst half I've ever seen of an NBA player this season because Yusuf Nurkic was in foul trouble, and I mean, Eubanks is their backup center. He has to play minutes. And guys weren't making shots really well. They were when they could actually set their offense, but it was just the possession game was a complete L for the Suns in the first half, and they went down big and had to fight back. So they should never have been in a position where LeBron James is getting a phantom timeout to win it and all that stuff. But I guess the answer is yes to your question, but big picture, the Suns shouldn't have been putting themselves in that situation. There are like 40 comments on this last 2-minute report, though, Chris. There's like 8 different plays that they're having to... No, it's more. It's like 15. What did you think? What did you think of the whole thing late in the game and the way the Suns played overall and what the Lakers can maybe take from it?
I think the Suns side of it is the first half is everything you said. It was really bad. I thought Booker was just off. You know, the decision-making for a rush, he was... Whatever it was, just something wasn't clicking for him. For them to come back, I think shows some real resiliency. I think it shows a real buy into that group. That's always what those comebacks to some degree tell me. So I like that part of it. I think they got hosed, no question. Their odds of winning, I don't know what the exact like flip of what that would say, but definitely.
I would imagine the Lakers were still favored to win in that moment because they were up.
Yes, so there's still an uphill battle, but
most of the game, yeah.
You'd like to probably feel like you're going out on real footing. So there's that part of it.
Did you know that the take foul can't get called in the last 2 minutes?
No, that's ridiculous.
I never knew that.
That's kind of ridiculous.
That was the explanation given for that one because the whole Suns team and the whole coaching staff thought that Booker was fouled with a take foul in that one spot, and I guess that can't be called against players in the last 2 minutes of games. It's just allowed, or it's just a regular foul, not the 2 foul shots plus possession. It's just a normal foul. It's like, so in the most important spot of the game, this rule doesn't apply. I can't understand that, but I'm venting now. You can have the floor.
Bizarre. I mean, honestly, it wasn't even like a great Lakers performance. Below average offensive rating, pretty poor, under 50% shooting at the rim, 31% from 3. Like, in some ways, they're kind of a little bit lucky to get through this. I mean, of the winners, I think arguably the least impressive performance that we saw of the winners. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I mean, our guy Zion, who does our TikToks, did a video just before we recorded about the offense and just the Lakers in general. AD had an awesome first half, disappeared in the second half. He hit the offensive boards hard, which was a big decisive thing about how this game played out. 21 for the Lakers, just 8 for the Suns. But this was another game where they needed LeBron to be a superhero. I mean, it wasn't much different than a lot of the other games have been. What do you think LeBron says to Austin Reeves if he doesn't make that 3?
Hope you're like Chicago MFer. I don't know.
Yeah. How about let me touch the ball at the end of the fucking game next time? That was crazy that LeBron doesn't even touch the ball in that possession, and Reeves pulls up with like 15 left on the clock, up 3, needing a bucket to keep the comeback dead by Phoenix, and just buries it. A guy who like Lakers fans have been hating on all season got moved to the bench, takes the biggest shot of their season and cans it like he's like fucking Reggie Miller. Insane.
We all have some random Jordan Poole-ness in us, just pulling up from wherever we see fit. That just happens sometimes. Two things
What's
I
your
think
pick?
the Lakers.
No, yeah, go for it.
The last two things. Didn't turn the ball over at all, which certainly helped them. Massive disparity in who turned the ball over and who did in this game. That was a big deal for Lakers, and they killed the Suns on the offensive glass. That's the two things that I think helped buoy them a little bit to kind of eke this one out.
And that's how they have to win. And that's their style.
I think they'll probably shoot a little bit better. You would think I'm picking LeBron.
Yeah, which poor soul on New Orleans? It's going to be Herb Jones, right?
Yeah, and Herb Jones is not strong enough.
And Valanciunas at the basket. If you thought that LeBron has been eating Yusuf Nurkic alive in those 3 Lakers-Suns matchups this season, watch when the less athletic version of Yusuf Nurkic now gets an opportunity at it in the form of Valanciunas. It's not going to be pretty. But
let me tell you what LeBron's shooting at the rim this year. 73,
600%.
He's at still 77% at the rim.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yesterday
was the first day, and obviously this is because I'm a Suns fan. Yesterday was the first day where I was like, all right, I'm fucking sick of it. I'm tired of it. I'm mad now. I'm mad that he's doing this. Like, most of last season, it was just awe because the Suns didn't have any sort of horse in the race, and it was just cool to watch their turnaround late in the season with the trades, and you can be like, wow, Rob Pelinka's actually somewhat decent at his job, and they have some guys who are developing, and Jared Vanderbilt's cool to watch. Last night I was like, all right, I'm sick of it. Retire.
My personal feeling, my player that like a lot of people feel that way towards LeBron. I think mine's just Mitchell Robinson at this point because I'm just so sick, like just the rebounds. I'm just like, man, this guy's just gobbling them. It's incredible.
You're just walking around your house and you just like see him in the corner, like he's just in your psyche. He's just haunting your home and your every breath.
The problem is that it's like I love the way he plays, and I love the story this week that he invited his old high school coach to move in with him because his old high school coach's wife passed away. And I was like, what a sweet guy. Now, he has like a shit ton of pets, which is like kind of weird, but, fascinating guy.
He's good. He's the right guy to scare you. He would also probably be able to hurt you pretty good if you ever crossed him. So, physically, it's a good guy to be intimidated by, I think. Same with LeBron.
Yeah.
But
so
I will pick the Pelicans just to add some flavor here. I think this game will end small.
Yeah.
I think that we will see the Pelicans close with McCollum, Murphy, Jones, Ingram, and Zion. And obviously the Lakers will close with AD at the 5. And I think it'll come down to Ingram, if I'm being honest, because I think that AD will be able to neutralize Zion drives pretty well. And Zion doesn't really have a backup plan if that happens. But if Ingram can keep playing as smoothly as he was, I think that they have a real shot. So I'll pick the Pelicans. They are they're plus 100. That's not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Could happen.
No, this is much more even than the other ones. Even like part of me thinks there's a world where the Pacers have a better shot of winning than the Pelicans, just because I'm just kind of in love with the Pacers right now. But so if you're okay, so you have a Bucks Pelicans final. I have a Lakers Bucks final. I'm just gonna say LeBron gets the inaugural NBA Cup. I'm just gonna ride that out.
We have time. We're recording Friday. Don't spoil.
Okay, I'm just filling out my bracket. That's true.
Yeah. Well, what a surprise! You picked LeBron. I could have filled that bracket out for you.
That's true. In pen, probably. Yeah. I am who I am. We are who we are. We all have our flaws. Mine is I like honestly though. The two matchups. If I could pick like 1v1 matchups to see the rest of this way, Brendan, in the final, I think it's LeBron versus Giannis or Tyrese Halliburton versus Herb Jones.
Yeah, I don't think Zion is selling the way that the league was hoping at this point in time. So maybe they just got to pivot to Herb Jones and start marketing around him. Maybe Jordan Brand needs to do the Herb ones.
Just some amazing not on Herb shirts.
Exactly.
Can you imagine the crowd for who do you think's buying all the secondhand tickets if the Lakers don't win the final?
I got an email from the league that said that the tickets for Thursday were 25% off, which did not feel like a great indicator to me. They were last minute, buy your NBA Cup tickets, 25% off for tomorrow. I'm like, well, I'm not driving to Vegas, but if I were, 25% off sounds pretty nice.
This one of the tweaks, and we'll do like a post-mortem, I think, to some degree about the inaugural tournament. One of the things I wonder is if they should move it out of Vegas and not have it in Vegas every single year, and like move it around like through the Final Four. It's like, hey, random.
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, like, hey, 1 year it's in Montreal. 1 year we're gonna do it in Europe. 1 year we're gonna do it in Mexico City. 1 year, we're gonna.
I just think they don't want it to be a disruption. They already have to pad it on either side with these off days and like make it kind of almost like an all-star break type of week, and to add all that travel would be kind of crazy. I also think the thing that I wonder is what happens to Summer League and this and even Ignite and some of these other things when Vegas has a team.
Exactly where I was going to go. Yeah.
Because this is now that just becomes a literal home game, and Summer League, these other owners are going to be like, hold on, such and such Vegas owner gets like all this shit in their backyard,
LeBron.
And I'm out here in like Orlando just clamoring for like any fans to come to my games. Like, how's this fair? So that'll be interesting.
The 2030 NBA Cup live from Topeka, Kansas, coming to you shortly.
There you go.
We're getting at there. All right, Waving the Flag, our weekly segment where we talk about two teams we're in love with this year, and we're waving our flag on the Kings and the Magic. Real quick, though, got to tell you about Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a player prop DFS platform where you can pick more or less on your favorite players across multiple sports, including the NBA and NFL. Sign up today with our code JustBasketball, all caps, all one word, and Thrive will match your first deposit up to $250. All right, Brendan, let's talk about the Orlando Magic. Recently wrapped up a big long winning streak. Excuse me, my brain just absolutely crapped out on itself for some reason. A situation where you look under the hood, I think some of the numbers are really interesting. There's some high variance, like Paolo 3-point shooting in there, but this was very much a defensive-oriented, the way they've won all year win streak with wins over the Bulls, the Pacers, the Raptors, the Nuggets, the Celtics, Hornets, and the Wizards. So we look ahead at this, and they're going to get Wendell Carter Jr. back soon. They have a game against Cleveland that's taking place after we finish recording. This team is feeling more and more real to me, and I think getting Wendell Carter back and getting him, who is good as in quality, at least good enough when they've gotten those centers back. This is good to get him back. This is good to have someone who Franz Wagner has called the anchor of their defense back out there.
Well, yeah, he's the anchor of their defense. I think it's going to change how they play for a few reasons. I think they're absolutely for real. I almost think, we got to own the flag waving and not ask the small market doubt question, the small market hater question of is it real? They've proven it. It's real. They're here. What I will say about the injury situation first before we dive in on Carter is Markelle Fultz is out with knee tendonitis, and there's basically been no kind of progress from what it seems like, and that is worrisome for him, which we obviously know the injury history with him, and obviously I think is he free agent this year? And his future and their, roster building and all that. So something to keep an eye on. But Carter seems to progress. They gave an update on November 28th that he had basically healed and was now just kind of working his way back into basketball shape. They expected him to be reevaluated about 2 weeks after that point, which is coming up any day now. He just was not having a very good offensive season before the injury. 41% from 2-point range, which is ugly for a big man. His assists were down and his turnovers were pretty much stagnant, so his assist to turnover ratio is like 1-to-1. He's a playmaking big, who is supposed to be kind of physical and athletic inside. He just hasn't been playing like that. His 3-point shot, he does not seem... I've always felt he doesn't have a lot of confidence in it, which limits how much of a weapon it can really be. Like Al Horford was the comp when he was at Duke. I can kind of see it at times. He's not quite as long as Al, but they play similarly. The thing with Al, especially late in his career, is he just lets it fly from 3. So if Carter's not going to do that, he's a little cold from 2. It starts to gum things up in a way that I don't think that they had to worry about when they were getting extra possessions with offensive rebounds, floor spacing, and quick decision-making from Mo Wagner and Goga Bitadze, which those guys are not elite players. They're not starting caliber players, in my opinion, but they filled a very specific role that I think helped maximize what the offensive engines of the team were. And I'm not sure how Wagner or how Carter replicates that. I think that that's the big question on offense that I have for them, is sort of what does he do to replicate or approximate what those guys were doing. I don't know if he does. I think that their offense will take a hit.
I think if this team had guard play that I liked better, this would be less of a concern. Like if they had offensive guard play where they had pull-up three-point shooting, they had some more dynamicism off ball even. Like if Fred VanVleet was this team's point guard, and this is a name we've talked about with them a lot because there's the reported interest and whatnot, like I think this wouldn't be as much of a concern. I think if you just had someone that came in and was going to fill that need in some way, great. I think there's no real concern, but I think you're dead right. Who would you rather see remain as the actual backup center, Wagner or Bitadze?
Wagner's better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Also the brother tax.
Yeah, I mean he's making more money too, and the brothers. And the Magic have been pushing the brother thing. Jake Fisher did a feature on them, and then they both went on Pardon My Take. So, like, sure. I think the Magic are like, let's ride this shit as long as we can. We got 2 dudes who look like each other. Let's just maximize that. Yeah, I mean, I think I've brought up the comp of, like, their Pelicans East. I know we made the joke about they're both kind of in the East, but McCollum is a version of what you're talking about, right? Like the Pelicans play some gummed up lineups. Valanciunas is not always a spacer. Nance is not always a spacer. They have to play Zion at the 5 sometimes. He doesn't shoot threes. But with McCollum's dynamic ability, they have some shooting at other spots, and Ingram and Zion are so good making shots in tight spaces, it doesn't affect it as much. The Magic don't have that luxury. They don't always put lineups on the court because they have to play Suggs so much that can shoot. And so, yeah, I think you're going to see things shrink in the half court. I think you're going to see Carter Jr.'s lack of aggressiveness and hesitation to take shots blow up some possessions. I mean, it's just the reality. We're now going to see him kind of adjust to being on this team, and that's fine. It'll take time, but I think it will be an adjustment phase. However, on the defensive end, this dude's filthy. Teams take 6% fewer shots at the rim with Carter Jr. on the court. They make 9% fewer of them, and teams are shooting 46.6% within 6 feet when Carter Jr. is on the court. You're telling me that in the restricted area, basically, in the paint, teams make less than half of their shots when Carter Jr. is the closest defender. Like, you said that their recipe is defense and some of these other ingredients. Their defense is going to get even better. So I think you're just going to see the disparity between offense and defense grow in the minutes that he's on the court. Maybe the answer is just play him a little bit less and kind of make him earn it and say, hey, Mo's been playing great. We trust him out there. If you're going to fit into this team and help us continue to win, you got to fit into what we're doing offensively. You got to take shots when they're there. You got to play off of these star players better. And if not, you're going to be, a 25-minute per game starter. I think that might be what Jamal Mosley has to do here.
I like that shot a lot. Last thing on the Magic for me, I just want to continually say that I'm in love with the way Jalen Suggs plays defense. There was a game against the Wizards during this win streak where he is the way the way he walks when you're dribbling the ball up the court is like the way a strong safety is like moving before the snap in football. Like I don't think I've seen another guard except maybe like Caruso really move like this in the way he is locked in and the way like the footwork is so precise and he's not gearing himself up and working himself into a shoot and then getting himself in trouble. He's just like locked in this way. So he's defending across half court. There's like a little poke free of the ball to Kyle Kuzma. He ends up having to defend Kyle Kuzma after kind of a non-planned switch. Kuzma works off kind of a couple screens. Suggs just sticks with him, absorbs contact, rebounds, and he gets twisted around, and he still has the wherewithal to like keep his arms up and contest the shot, so Kuzma takes a bad long jumper. This guy is absolutely just dogged and an absolute menace. Magic Reddit is going a wee bit too far on asking if he should be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Like, we're not there, but he's really good. And
if he can grow a few inches, he might have a shot. Otherwise, Marcus Smart got the once per generation when that happens. So, yes, probably not.
Right, but this is a guy that, like, if you're building out the guard rotation going forward, I want to find – he's part of this team's identity to me with the way he's playing defense. Absolutely part of the way the team's identity is shaping right now. And that's – that for a guy like Suggs, who I think we were wondering, at least I was, where exactly he was going to fit in, the way he's playing defense this year is making him part of what they're doing, and that's really cool to see.
Well, and look, he's shooting 37% from three. Like, he's one of these guys where you think he's not a good shooter, and somehow you look up the stats every week or so, and he's making threes. So, yeah, he uses every single one of the fouls allotted to him. He's averaging 4 per 36 minutes. He's averaging 5 per 100 possessions. But that's why he's out there. And confidence is such a big thing for guys like that. So he might not make the threes, but I think the coaching staff riding with him, and I think him continuing to take what's there, have the ball in his hands. That's been another thing with Fultz out, is he just gets to play point guard basically, which I think is when he's most comfortable. All that is going to pay off in the long run for sure. But ready for trade talk? Ready for slop?
Let's go to the Magic. The Sacramento Kings. Let's do some trades. Brendan, I have 5 names. I don't know how many you also prepared 5 names.
I prepared 5, and then I actually have 8.
Okay. So here's what I think we should do. We can rapid fire through these, and we can each just name a guy. And if it's on the list, my list is in the docs. You're I think already looking at it, so it's less of a surprise. But I'm gonna throw out one first, and it's I think the biggest name that we know is probably gonna get traded sooner rather than later. And that's Zach LaVine. I just think even if I don't, I have to really think hard about what the price I would pay for LaVine is, and how he fits with Fox. I think is a question. And if that's the right way you want to cash in chips, I think that's just a name from a scoring perspective, from another creative perspective that I think should be on their list of trade targets. And it's been reported that they do have some interest.
Yeah, I think he fits with Fox fine. My question with Zach LaVine on this team is obviously the money. Fox is quietly could become Supermax eligible if he were to make All-NBA this year. I think that Sacramento would be in kind of a bind, and maybe it would become a little bit of a Jaylen Brown situation where they're not like capital W worth it if you were to just rank everybody in the NBA on a spreadsheet and do the whole Moneyball thing, but they probably would have to pay it to him. So money is going to become a big factor for them very soon. The other question I have with Zach LaVine on the Kings is, how much better is he than Malik Monk? I know he's better.
Question. Yeah. But is it worth all the extra
offensive box
money you're
plus
paying?
minus this year? Offensive box plus minus this year, Zach LaVine is at 1.0. And a lot of those things are based on team success and everything else. Last year, Zach LaVine, offensive box plus minus 2.7. Malik Monk this year, 3.2. And last year, 1.6. So I think everybody would agree Zach LaVine's better, but that would be my question. All right, my first one, let's just have the conversation now. Alex Caruso.
This to me I almost like more than LaVine, just because get a really good defender in there and they need another defender on this team, can play heavy minutes. You don't totally need him to, like, you're one of the teams that I think can absorb Caruso's like PJ Tucker disease, where he doesn't always want to shoot, and like it's not the end of the world for you in the way that I think it could be for some other teams, a little bit of a concern. I just like this fit a lot, and it's a good contract. It would fill a need for them. I almost like this one more than I like the LaVine one.
Yeah, I absolutely like it more than I like the LaVine one. I think that the thing that's valuable about Caruso on a team like this, especially that needs defense in a lot of different places, is Caruso can defend 1 through 4 and you trust it. He's like Drew Holiday in that way, right? So it's not like you get Caruso and you're like, all right, that's only going to be our Steph Curry defender or our Devin Booker defender or our Jamal Murray defender. It's like, no, he can probably be a guy who defends Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James, And so I think as far as the versatility goes, when you have Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter and De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, who are all sort of weaker defenders, Caruso can be plugged in wherever you need him to be, and I like that a lot. I had as a backup for Caruso, if they were to strike out there, DeLon Wright might be available in Washington. kind of a similar type of player, more of a point of attack defender, but he could be kind of a plan B. I just expect him to be pretty aggressive. So I think it's not like, oh, we didn't get Caruso, let's pack up our bags and go home. Like, we kind of have to be multifaceted about it. What's your next one?
Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, make the case for this one, not just because he's a good player. Do you think he fits here?
The fit's a little bit of a question for sure. But I think you look at the defensive stuff he could give them, a different function on offense, just enough spacing for it not to feel super clogged. Maybe you could unleash some weird small ball Pascal Siakam 5 lineups and just get weird. I just I do like the talent bet if I'm them. I like the defensive capabilities of Siakam. I like the different functions it could add to your offense. I just like this kind of size player on this team, and him and Keegan would be an amazing duo that you could do a lot of fun things with, and I think it'd be good partners for Fox. So I just like trying to make the talent that has clear skills that you could use, even if it's imperfect, work for you. Even if there definitely is some concerns, the money part of it is obviously another question with this. It's like if you trade for him, you better be willing to just throw him the money to make him stay.
The thing that I like about Siakam as somebody who thought that the Kings should have made a push for John Collins is the help defense. And he's a much, much better help defender and defender overall than John Collins is. The other part that I like, to your point about size, is if you're able to get a bigger 4 to replace Barnes, suddenly you go from a very small team to a very big team, kind of with one move, right? Like, you watch that Pelicans game, and I know we mentioned Zion had a weird night, but when he was aggressive, Barnes stood no chance. Barnes was just getting bowled over. And so what I like about Siakam is he could just level up their size overall. I just haven't seen him play in a quick decision, up-tempo offense in so long that it would be a pretty big bet that he could adjust his game on offense quite a bit and probably have to become a more willing three-point shooter than he's been. And so all that adds up to I'm not a huge fan of it, if I'm being honest. But I'll say OG Anunoby.
Also on my list.
I'm more of a fan of. More of a fan of OG because I think that he is more plug and play as, hey, go defend the best wing or guard on the opposing team and then stand in the corner and make some threes for us.
And the question I would have, I have two things about that I'll say. One, positively, I think him and Murray is I think a better fit than Siakam and Murray, because then Murray could just play the 4 a little bit more seamlessly. There's not like weird reconfiguration, so the plug and play point you made, dead accurate. The thing I don't like is all the chatter we've heard for so long is that OG wants a bigger role. OG wants more responsibility to do more on offense. I don't want to bring him in and have him do that.
But you know what the thing is? I don't think he's good enough to do that. So any team that expects that or plans to appease him when they acquire him is already wrong. So I think that the organization that acquires OG Anunoby needs to be able to make the case to him that he is a 3-and-D player. Hey, on your next contract, you might still only be a 3-and-D player, but you're still worth more than you're making. We agree on that. We will pay you, OG. But you're not going to become Kawhi Leonard. That's not what you are.
Yeah, and he'd be like the 4th option on this team. But could be a really
should be the 3rd or 4th option on every team. So, but yeah, I think.
I want to like.
And the case is easier to make here.
Yeah. The package, like negotiating with Toronto seems difficult, but, should try it. Brendan, who's your next one?
How about Dorian Finney-Smith?
So, I thought about this, and it didn't feel sexy enough. I wanted just a little. My last name on my list sort of defeats the purpose of this, and we're among the internet cyclists who are Alex Caruso is a pretty sexy trade to make, but.
He won a championship with the most popular team in the league. I think Alex Caruso is sexy.
Just basketball.
Physically too. Sure. While we're at it.
Bald king. Again, Jalen Suggs, shave your head. Your market value goes up. Finney-Smith, if you were going to get him, and it's just this is the best we could do without expunging our assets and improve on the Harrison Barnes spots, I think that's fine. I think that would be a good bit of business that doesn't really move the needle for me in a major way.
I mean, if you were to say that the Kings have a better answer for opposing wings and forwards than they did last year, I mean, you'd feel a lot better about them. He's shooting 46% from three this year. It's like a kind of a worse OG Anunoby deal, really, if you think about it. If you don't think that's sexy, I had an even worse one for you, which was like the backup plan for Finney Smith, who's already the backup plan for OG, which was Torrey Craig. That's like we really crapped out, but we just want to get like a ninth man for the playoffs.
We need to send out a press release that we made a trade, so like our crazy fan base, we just got to get a trade out so like the fans know we did something.
I had Bojan Bogdanovic.
Thought about this a lot. Was wondering like the injury stuff with him is a little bit of a concern. We'll see how healthy he is now that he's back. He looked good in his return. Wouldn't hate it. I think he's better than Barnes for sure. I think I trust him more as a shooter.
That's basically where I was.
Yeah, the shooting.
It's like if you're not going to get defense from that spot, then just get better offense.
Roll. But I guess couldn't you already just play the guy who's I'm going to blank on his name.
On our favorite Western Conference team,
Brendan. It's been a week.
Sasha Vezenkov is who you're talking about.
Yes. Could you just like play him more? Like if you're like and just
Sure.
like save the assets for something else. Like he's playing.
I would love to see them play him more.
He played 6 minutes the other night. Played 14 against Denver. Like is averaging 14 minutes a game. Just play him like 25.
I have one last one for you that's even less sexy than anything we've already said.
Okay.
Daniel Gafford. They need a backup center. This team is playing JaVale McGee minutes in an NBA Cup game because they don't have another option. We talked about last week they keep playing Trey Lyles at center, who is like 6'9" and can't jump. Daniel Gafford on this team as a backup to Sabonis would actually like give them like a half point plus in their point differential, I feel like. Just by shoring up that 12 to 15 minutes a night. I really think that could be worth it if they could trade like 2 seconds for Gafford.
The problem with that is just the salary. It's like, do I want to have $12 million, $13.3, and $14.3 million on my books the next couple of years? I don't really know if I do.
No, probably not.
That's like a lot. Daniel Gafford is like a fine backup center. I would like find 80% of that if I could and pay that guy $4 million than I would give Daniel Gafford like close to mid-level money.
No, you probably got to be starting him if you're going to acquire him on that contract.
And then then you're going down a whole other rabbit hole. All right, my last name, TJ McConnell, just like Alex Caruso, but like another version of it, who's not totally in the rotation or in what's going on in Indiana right now, and like maybe they flip him for just some kind of asset and you get the guard. Like I wouldn't hate that bit of business for them.
It's not going to cost much, so I think it's totally fine. I mean, last year in the playoffs, Davion Mitchell took 4 threes a game and made 26% of them. And even that made you feel like, okay, he's making 26%. We can survive with him defending Steph Curry. And it's not going to be a total nightmare. He's not turning the ball over. He keeps it moving. Now, Davion Mitchell's out of the rotation because they just can't live with the offense anymore. So if you got someone a little bit more playable on offense who could do some of what Davion Mitchell did for them, especially with how many guards there are in the West that they're going to need to account for, I think they absolutely could be a McConnell team. I think the Suns might be a McConnell team. They've been interested for a while. Maybe the Pacers just say, hey, he's actually too important to our defense. But yeah, he is going to be a name, I think, for sure, and Sacramento should be in on him.
Making good cheap contract to 8.7 this year, 9.3 next year. That's like Caruso, just on a really good deal for what he is. Even if he's a little bit older, a little bit like certainly, I don't know if you want to be the team that gives him like his next multi-year contract at even that number, but I think for the short term, that's a good plug and play. Any other Kings thoughts, Brendan, before we wrap this up?
No, that's it. Sucks that they lost, but
yeah,
were you all? Going.
Did anything about their performance though disappointing for them to fall out of the tournament in that way?
I mean, just in general, it kind of sucked that I just think they're better than New Orleans, frankly. So I mean, I think that, but yeah, it was a little bit the offensive rebounding that New Orleans was able to get, and the way that Valanciunas kind of bodied Sabonis a little bit was disappointing. You didn't have the best night from Fox. His 3-point percentage is kind of plummeting. He's down to like 36 again, where he started the year at plus 42 plus. No, I just think high-scoring games can go either way. New Orleans played better, but I think Sacramento needs moves in order to improve this year. I don't think that this roster is going to get them over the hump. I think they're going to be a toss-up to win a first-round series once again, and I don't think that's going to be good enough for them.
Let's end there. I'm Chris Manning. That is Brendon Kleen. Thanks again to everyone for tuning in to the Just Basketball Show, your twice-weekly look at all things basketball. Back on Sunday, we have the NBA Cup Final. We're back on Friday, later in the day, recapping Thursday night's games, previewing the tournament finals. We'll have a lot of NBA Cup content there. And then Sunday, NBA Cup Final and the WNBA Draft Lottery. We're going to find out if Caitlin Clark's staying in school for another year on Sunday.
We're going to find out if that new Indiana investor is going to get his hopes up or maybe get Caitlin Clark. We'll see. I think maybe that 10% stake or whatever maybe had a little bit of an eye toward Iowa.
Did you see, by the way, Sue Bird and Jason Sudeikis rolling up to an Iowa women's game?
Sudeikis has some time on his hands. I don't know. You might have heard about that whole saga. So
we'll talk about that after this. I have some questions for you. We're going to end there. I'm Chris Manning. That's Brendon Kleen. We'll talk to y'all next time.